The Galactic Emperor stood inside his grand throne hall, watching the massive holographic screen that showed a blue planet fading into dust. His golden armor glowed in the light of the dying Earth. Around him, his advisors and generals bowed deeply, waiting for his reaction. After centuries of battle, the human world had finally fallen. "Report," the Emperor demanded in his cold, echoing voice. A trembling officer stepped forward, his long fingers shaking as he held a datapad. "My Emperor, all human resistance has been eliminated. Civilian zones are silent. Final death count, 5,731 children." The Emperor leaned back, emotionless. "Children?" he repeated, his voice calm yet sharp like a blade. "Yes, Your Majesty. The humans tried to hide them in underground shelters. But our cleansing ships found them." The hall went silent. For a moment, even the hum of machines seemed to fade. The Emperor's lips curled into a faint smile. "Then it is done. Humanity is no more," he said. "They called themselves the protectors of innocence. Now they protect nothing." The generals laughed, their metallic armor clanging in cruel rhythm. Across the galaxy, the Empire celebrated the end of what they called the human problem. But not everyone celebrated. Deep in the military command hub, an old communications officer named Relin watched his screen flicker. He frowned. "Strange. Receiving a transmission," he whispered. Another officer looked over. "From where?" Relin's eyes widened as he traced the signal. "From Earth." The laughter in the command hub stopped. Everyone stared at the flickering symbol. 3 blue circles rotating around a silver dot. It was an old Terran military emblem. "That's impossible," someone muttered. "Earth's gone." "We destroyed it." The signal pulsed again, stronger. The screen distorted and static filled the room. Then a single word appeared in white letters on a black background. "Run." No sound. No explanation. Just one word. The Emperor was immediately informed. The hollow screen in the throne room glitched for a moment, showing the same message, "Run," before returning to normal. The Emperor frowned. "Some human ghost signal," he said, waving his hand. "Erase it," but the signal didn't stop. Every starship, every station across the Galactic Empire received the same encrypted message. Even ships millions of light years apart reported identical data. The message had no origin point, no source, no trace, and then one by one the stars began to flicker. At first the astronomers thought it was a sensor error. But when entire constellations disappeared from scanners, panic spread. Power grids began to fail. Navigation systems froze. Fleets drifting in deep space sent desperate calls for help, then went silent. "Your Majesty," a voice cried through the comlink. "The 7th Fleet vanished. No debris, no signal, just..." Static filled the line. The Emperor stood, anger twisting his face. "Enough of this nonsense. Humans are extinct. They cannot..." Before he could finish, the palace lights dimmed. The massive windows showed the starry void outside, their capital world surrounded by hundreds of Imperial ships. But now, several of those ships were gone. Just gone, leaving trails of vapor and nothing more. The Emperor's hand trembled. "Contact the fleet," he ordered. "Trying, sire, but our network is down. We can't reach any ship," the officer said, panic growing in his voice. Another officer shouted, "A new signal detected. It's spreading through all systems, audio file incoming." The speakers crackled. A faint sound played through the halls, a soft, distant noise. It took them a moment to realize what it was. Children, laughing. The same sound the soldiers had recorded on Earth before the bombardment. Now it echoed through every Imperial ship and world. The Emperor clenched his fists. "Shut it off!" he shouted, but the sound grew louder. The laughter turned distorted, layered with faint mechanical echoes. Then the children's voices began whispering something, their tone calm but chilling. "You can't kill what you don't understand." Suddenly every system shut down at once. The capital's skies went dark, every light fading as if the universe itself had stopped breathing. From the balcony of his palace, the Emperor looked up. The stars, once bright and countless, had vanished. The galaxy that had bowed before him for decades was silent. For the first time in his long life, the Emperor felt something unfamiliar: fear. He turned to his general. "Send scouts. I want every remaining ship searching for the source of that transmission." The general bowed but hesitated. "Yes, my Emperor, but what if it's them?" The Emperor glared. "They are dead. There are no humans left." The general looked away. Then what sent the message? The Emperor had no answer. He stared into the dark void, the echo of children's laughter still ringing faintly in his ears. The stars were silent. The galaxy was holding its breath. And far away, hidden beneath layers of space dust and shadows, something was moving. Something old, patient, and very human. The day the stars went silent was the day humanity finally whispered back. The Galactic Empire was built on fear. For centuries, their fleets crushed every world that dared to resist. But now fear had turned against them. After the strange message from Earth, run, nothing was the same. Star systems that had once been bright and full of life now flickered on the galactic map like dying candles. Entire fleets stopped responding. Military command centers received thousands of distress calls, ships screaming about shadows moving between the stars. Every report ended the same way. Silence. In the cold depths of the command citadel, the Emperor gathered his top admirals. The great hall, once glowing with golden light, now felt darker, colder. Static filled every holoscreen. The Emperor's voice broke the silence. "Explain this madness," he ordered, his eyes burning with anger and fear. Admiral Soreth, the youngest among them, stepped forward. "My Emperor, we have traced fragments of the message. It is written in old Terran code, a language no one uses anymore. It is not random. Something is sending it from deep within the Sol system." The Emperor frowned. "But Earth was destroyed," Soreth swallowed hard. "That is what we thought, sire, but the readings suggest a power surge coming from inside the planet's core. Something massive is active beneath the surface." Whispers filled the room. The Emperor stood silent, his jaw tightening. "Send a probe," he commanded. "I want to see this myself." Across the blackness of space, a small silver probe descended toward the dead world called Earth. Ash clouds swirled over cracked continents. Oceans were gone, turned into endless deserts of glass. The probe dived through thick layers of dust, scanning for signs of energy. Then its sensors caught something, deep underground, miles below what used to be North America. A massive metallic structure pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. The probe tried to transmit data, but the signal froze. The last image it sent showed something impossible, a vast city glowing beneath the planet's crust. And in the middle of it, a single human eye opening. Then the feed went dark. Hours later, the Emperor watched the final frame in silence. No one spoke. The old communications officer, Relin, whispered, "It's like the planet is alive." Before anyone could respond, all lights in the room flickered again. This time the transmission appeared across every Imperial system. A new sound filled the air, not laughter, not a message. It was a heartbeat. Slow, steady, deep boom, boom, boom. Every ship's engine began to pulse in the same rhythm. Navigation systems failed. Energy signatures matched the heartbeat exactly. "Disconnect everything," the Emperor shouted, but it was too late. The Empire's technology was no longer theirs. A holographic projection flickered to life in the throne room, a figure made of static and light. It was human, or at least shaped like one. Its voice was calm, cold, and emotionless. "You took 5,731, it said. "Now we take back everything." The image vanished. The Emperor stood frozen. That voice, was it human? He asked softly. Admiral Soreth nodded slowly. "Older, darker, like it came from something that isn't human anymore." The Emperor clenched his fists. "Summon the fleets. Prepare to strike the Sol system again. I don't care what lives there. I will end it myself." 3 days later, the Emperor's Grand Fleet, over 3,000 warships, gathered at the edge of Sol. They expected silence. Instead, they found wreckage. Hundreds of alien ships from other empires drifted in the void, their hulls burned and torn apart. The Emperor's flagship scanners picked up strange readings, massive gravitational waves moving through empty space. Then the voice returned. "You should have run." The space around them rippled. Out of the darkness emerged shadows, black ships the size of mountains, their hulls covered with unknown alloy, their engines burning blue-white. No one had ever seen ships like these before. They bore no heat signatures, no transponders, no life signs, and yet they moved with purpose. "Identify them," Soreth shouted. The AI responded, trembling, unable to match database, but markings detected. Blue sphere with silver circle. Ancient Terran insignia. The bridge went silent. Humans. But not the humans they remembered. These ships looked alive, their metal surfaces shifting like muscle. The Emperor's ships opened fire. The blasts vanished into the void, swallowed by a strange field that bent light and sound. Moments later, the black ships returned fire, one single pulse of blue light. Entire enemy squadrons disappeared, not destroyed. Erased. The Emperor felt his heart freeze. "What are they?" he whispered. Reelan answered quietly. "The ghosts of Earth, sire." The battle ended before it began. The Emperor's fleet retreated, but not fast enough. The human ships didn't chase. They simply hovered in silence, watching. Then one by one they turned and vanished into the dark, leaving behind only that same haunting message: run. Back in the capital, the Emperor stared out of his palace window. His reflection trembled in the glass. For the first time he understood the truth. Humanity hadn't died. They had evolved into something the galaxy was never meant to see. Something that remembered. Something that waited. Something that was coming. The Emperor could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that single word flashing in the dark. Run. It was burned into his mind like a curse. His dreams were filled with laughter, whispers, and the echo of distant thunder, the sound of engines awakening beneath Earth's crust. He had destroyed thousands of worlds, but never had he felt this kind of fear. This wasn't rebellion. It wasn't resistance. It was something older, colder, deliberate. Weeks passed, but the silence grew heavier. Trade routes went dark. Outposts vanished without distress signals. And then came the first message in months, a faint transmission from a frontier mining colony near the Orion Rift. A terrified voice screamed through static. "They're here." The black ships, they don't answer, they don't talk, they just watch. Their eyes. The message cut off with a metallic tearing sound like the ripping of reality itself. The Emperor's council gathered once again, the air filled with fear. The Admiral spoke, trembling. "My Emperor, the colonies are reporting sightings of entire human fleets, but not like before. They don't behave like normal ships. They don't use light-speed drives or energy cores. They appear and disappear as if they stepped through space itself." The Emperor's claws scraped against his throne. "You are telling me that Earth's ashes built an army that defies physics?" The Admiral lowered his head. "Not built, my Emperor. Awakened. Across the Empire, strange events multiplied. On one world, the night sky flickered, thousands of stars turning red before blinking out. On another, entire communication networks repeated one word endlessly: forgive us. No one knew who sent it. Then, one night, over the capital world, the stars moved. Not twinkled, moved. Dozens of points of light began to shift across the sky in a straight line, as if the constellations themselves were marching. The Imperial defense satellites activated, locking onto the unknown objects. But before they could fire, the system froze. A deep hum filled the air, vibrating through the bones of every living being. The sky darkened. Out of the void appeared the silent fleet. Hundreds of ships, and vast, black, and perfectly still, hovered above the capital world. No lights, no sound, no transmissions. Their hulls shimmered faintly, reflecting ghostly images of Earth's oceans, forests, and skies, things that no longer existed. The citizens of the Empire looked up in horror. For the first time, even they knew, these were not ordinary humans. They were vengeance made flesh. Inside the Emperor's war room, panic broke out. Shields are unresponsive. Weapons offline. They've taken control of the grid. The Emperor slammed his fist. Activate planetary defenses. Trying, sire, but it's useless. A transmission appeared on the central display. Not a voice, an image. A woman, human, dressed in a tattered military uniform, her face scarred but calm. Her eyes glowed faint blue like starlight reflecting in water. She looked straight at the Emperor. You murdered our children, she said softly. You thought the universe would forget, but the universe remembers. The Emperor's throat went dry. You're supposed to be extinct. The woman tilted her head. We are, she whispered. What you see now are echoes, but even echoes can kill gods. The signal ended. Moments later, the sky burned white. One after another, the human ships began to glow. Beams of pure energy descended, not explosions, not fire, but waves of silence. Everything they touched vanished without debris or sound. Buildings, fleets, continents, erased cleanly like ink wiped from glass. And yet, the palace remained untouched. The Emperor stepped to the balcony, trembling. The black ships floated above him, motionless like judgmental gods. Then one of them, the largest, a dreadnought with a hull shaped like a human skull, descended slowly. It stopped directly above the palace. A voice echoed through the sky. Not mechanical, not digital. 1,000 voices speaking as one. You killed the laughter of our children. Now hear their silence. The Emperor fell to his knees. Around him, the city burned in pure white light, yet he remained alive, forced to watch as his empire died in complete stillness. The sound faded. The ships vanished, dissolving into mist. Only the ruins of his capital remained, glowing faintly in the dark. The Emperor whispered to himself, Why spare me? From the shadows of the throne room, the old officer Relin stepped forward, pale and shaking. He placed a trembling hand on the Emperor's shoulder. They didn't spare you, sire, he said in a hollow voice. They left you as a witness. Far beyond the ruined capital, the silent fleet drifted through the stars like ghosts. Inside their ships, no living humans remained, only AI voices, memories, and the recorded consciousness of those who once lived. In the command chamber of the lead vessel, the AI spoke quietly into the void. For every child lost, 1,000 stars will dim. The fleet turned toward the galactic core, engines burning blue like tears. The Emperor's punishment had only begun. The Emperor's palace was now a ruin of silence. The great banners of the Galactic Empire hung in tatters, drifting in the dry wind that blew through shattered halls. The city below was gone, not burned, not bombed, simply erased like it had never existed. Only the Emperor and a handful of trembling survivors remained. He stood at the balcony, staring at the black void where his fleet once stood. His eyes were hollow, his voice a whisper. How can ghosts destroy an empire? Relin, the old officer, said nothing. His face was pale, his breathing shallow. In the reflection of the Emperor's armor, the stars above flickered faintly, as if the universe itself was watching. For days, the Emperor waited for a transmission, a surrender message, anything. But all channels were silent. The Empire's communication grid, once reaching across thousands of light years, was dead. Then, one evening, the silence broke. A single message appeared across every remaining screen. No symbols, no signatures, just a line of text glowing white against the darkness. The word of judgment will be spoken. The Emperor frowned. The word? He muttered. What word? Before Relin could answer, the palace shook. Distant thunder rolled through the air, but there were no clouds. Outside, the sky shimmered. Slowly, silently, the black ships returned. Hundreds of them encircling the capital world like an eclipse. Their formation was perfect, geometric, terrifying. Every ship's hull bore the same mark, the blue earth surrounded by a silver ring. The Emperor's voice trembled. They're here again. Relin whispered, perhaps. They never left. In the center of the sky, a colossal vessel appeared, larger than any empire's dreadnought, glowing with white energy veins that pulsed like a living heart. Its design was beyond comprehension, half metal, half light. The Emperor's voice broke. What is that? Relin whispered almost in prayer. The Ark of the Lost Children. The last creation of Earth, the vessel opened, revealing a circular portal of white light. A beam extended toward the planet's surface, touching the ruins of the palace. The air shimmered, and from the light stepped a human figure, a man or something that had once been a man. His uniform was old, worn, covered in ancient Terran symbols. His face was human, but his eyes glowed like stars. He walked through the ruined throne hall with slow, heavy steps. The Emperor stared in disbelief. Impossible, he whispered. Humans died long ago. The man stopped before him. You killed their bodies, he said calmly. Not their memory. The Emperor took a step back. Who are you? The man's voice was deep, echoing slightly as if carried by the void itself. I am the voice of those who cannot speak, the father of none, the keeper of the word. The Emperor's heart pounded. What word? He demanded. What is this judgment you speak of? The human looked up. The walls of the palace cracked and faded away, replaced by stars. The Emperor suddenly found himself standing in space, surrounded by the ghostly images of all the worlds his empire had destroyed. The screams of billions echoed faintly in the distance. The word, the human said, is not something you hear, it is something you remember. He extended his hand. A small hologram appeared. Children playing in the green fields of Earth, laughing, running, chasing butterflies. Then the scene changed. Fire, screams, and silence. The Emperor fell to his knees. I did what was necessary, he shouted. They resisted. They? The human interrupted, his tone calm but final. You murdered innocents and called it order. You called it peace. But peace built on death is only silence waiting to scream. Behind him the stars began to fade. One by one they blinked out, leaving only blackness. The Emperor trembled. Please, stop this. What do you want from me? The human's eyes glowed brighter. We want you to understand what you took from us. He raised his hand and the Emperor's mind was flooded with visions. The memories of every child he had ordered killed. Their laughter, their dreams, their fear, and their final moments. Thousands of faces flashing before his eyes. He screamed, clutching his head, begging for it to end. The human lowered his hand. Now you know the word. The Emperor gasped for air, falling to the floor. What was it? He whispered. The human leaned close and whispered one word that echoed across the stars through time and memory. Mercy. The word rippled across the galaxy. Every surviving Imperial ship, every world, every satellite received the same signal. A pulse of light carrying that single word, mercy. But it was not mercy for the Emperor. It was mercy for everyone else and for the slaves, the conquered, the broken. Every system enslaved by the Galactic Empire suddenly found its chains shattered. Artificial control grids deactivated. Weapons powered down. The Empire was over. The human stepped back into the beam of light, vanishing as the colossal arc ascended once more. The Emperor fell to his knees, his eyes hollow. Around him the wind whispered, carrying faint echoes of children's laughter. Relin approached him slowly. Sire, it's over, he said softly. The Emperor stared blankly into the distance. No, he whispered. It's just begun. The galaxy has remembered humanity, and it will never forget again. The galaxy had never known quiet like this. No engines roared, no fleets moved, no trade convoys whispered across the lanes of light. Every world once ruled by the Galactic Empire now floated in stunned silence, waiting, listening, afraid, and at the center of it all, on the ruined capital world, the Emperor sat alone upon his broken throne. The stars above him had dimmed to dull embers. The once mighty empire stretched across 1,000 suns was gone. He could still hear it. The word mercy. It echoed through his mind like a storm trapped inside his skull. He had seen the faces of the children he'd ordered to die. He had felt their fear. He had watched the laughter turn to screams and then to silence. And now that silence filled him completely. The old officer, Relin, entered the ruined hall, his uniform torn, his eyes hollow. He bowed weakly. My Emperor, the remaining worlds have declared independence. The fleets refuse to answer our calls. We are alone. The Emperor did not respond. His eyes were fixed on the night sky where a faint light pulsed, steady and rhythmic like a heartbeat. They're watching us, Relin whispered. The humans, or whatever they've become. The Emperor's voice was low, not watching, judging. Far above the dead world, the Ark of the Lost Children floated silently in the void. Inside its core, the preserved consciousness of ancient humanity stirred. It was not a fleet of soldiers anymore. It was a memory, a will made of every soul that once called Earth home. The AI voice of the Ark spoke softly to the others. The word has been given. Judgment complete. What remains is balance. One by one, the black ships aligned themselves in a circle around the dying sun of the Empire's home system. Their energy fields pulsed with blue light, spreading outward in perfect harmony. Inside the palace, Relin looked up. The sun, it's changing color. The Emperor rose to his feet, watching as the sky turned from black to deep crimson. A ring of light formed around the planet. The air trembled. Relin gasped. Are they going to destroy us? The Emperor closed his eyes. No, he said quietly. They're doing something worse. The ground began to shake. Across the world, time itself seemed to slow. The Emperor's palace, the broken cities, the burned forest, all began to reverse. The ruins rebuilt themselves. The fires turned to smoke, then to air. The dead rose again, not alive, but as shimmering silhouettes made of light. Billions of glowing figures appeared across the planet, human and alien alike, victims of the Emperor's wars. They stood silently, surrounding the palace, their eyes filled with faint blue fire. The Emperor fell to his knees. What is this? A voice spoke through the air, the same voice that once called itself the keeper of the word. You cannot undo what has been done, but you will see it. Forever. The Emperor screamed as the ghostly figures replayed every atrocity he had ordered, every burning world, every child that cried for mercy. The sky filled with scenes of his empire's crimes. His laughter, his pride, his cold orders, all mirrored back at him like endless reflections. He tried to cover his ears, but the sounds came from inside his mind. "Stop it," he shouted. "I was a ruler. I brought order." The voice replied, calm and unfeeling. "Order built on blood is not civilization. It is rot." The human ships began to fade, their forms dissolving into white mist. The arc pulsed one final time, sending a final message across the entire galaxy. A message that reached every species, every corner of the void. It said, "Humanity is not vengeance. Humanity is remembrance. Learn from what we endured, or face what we became." And then, just like that, the fleet was gone. Light returned to the stars. The Emperor stood alone amidst the ghosts, his empire erased from maps, his name forgotten. He looked toward the heavens and whispered, "Why did they not kill me?" Rielan, still trembling beside him, whispered, "Because death is mercy, and they already gave you that word." The Emperor closed his eyes, tears falling down his face. "Then what is this?" Rielan looked up at the empty sky. "This is the reckoning," he said softly. "You will live long enough to remember every life you took." Years passed. Travelers who later stumbled upon the ruins of the imperial capital found a single figure sitting on a stone throne, surrounded by empty armor and silent halls. His eyes were open, but he did not speak. Every night the stars above him flickered, forming the shape of a blue planet with a silver ring. Some said it was a warning. Others said it was a promise. And in the farthest reaches of the galaxy, on a hidden world cloaked in mist and starlight, a single human child opened her eyes. Her heartbeat matched the rhythm of the stars. Humanity had not died. It had evolved beyond flesh, beyond time, beyond fear. And somewhere in the quiet between galaxies, a whisper drifted through the void once more, not of hate, but of warning. Never forget what we are.